guys, Dr. Christy Ennis. Today we are going to go over how to get rid of those achy, creaky, clicky, yucky knees. You don't have to add the little hip motion unless, of course, you want to. But we know that those knees that get sore and achy prevent us from getting up and down off the ground. Playing with our kids and our grandkids, going up and down stairs can be affected. And if you're like me, getting out of the car, sometimes you walk like a toddler, or like maybe you've had a little bit too much to drink. Hopefully you don't combine those two because that's really bad, so don't go there. But the first thing you need to know is that people think with knee pain, they need to strengthen these quads. Strengthen, strengthen, strengthen. They do those wall sits and they do all sorts of squats and they wonder why their knees actually tend to feel worse. Here's why. A lot of times, quads are already strong. We know this from the research. But what tends to be weak are the hamstrings. And then you have, here's my balance, then you have this ankle joint here and this hip joint here that if they're either not working because they're tight or the mobility is missing or there's weakness in either spot, that's going to go right to that knee. So if you ignore these and this, that poor knee is going to be in trouble, okay? So the very first thing we want to do is actually loosen up some of those muscles that are tight. Now, remember what I said, everyone wants to strengthen those quads, but what really usually needs to be done in there is loosen these darn things up. And you can see I have a little boo-boo. That's my Calamity Christie coming out. But don't worry, nobody makes me bleed my own blood. Nobody. See if you can guess what movie that's from. All right, I'm going to take out my Derma Edge, which is an invention that I created, and actually my son, who just turned 13, and my husband helped me put together. So we're going to find those muscles in the quad. Mine inside isn't so bad, but right here it's really bumpy. So I'm going to start by doing just a little bit of a motion until it starts to get either red or it feels a little looser or a little less bumpy. Get some blood flow going, get those layers gliding over one another. We want to make sure we get those calves too, because that can limit the way this ankle is moving. All right, so I'm going to move on down. Again, the inside this time for me is definitely tighter. You guys do a little experiment and see which is tighter for you. All right, so once, and it doesn't take long, certainly. And if you do want to order one of these, I'm going to link that in the description below and up above here. So now we want to hit some of those really extra tight knots, okay? And what tends to be an issue are up in the hip flexors and in this little stupid muscle called your tensor fascia lata. Say that 10 times fast. Or TFL for short, which is much easier. Attaches to the IT band. You guys have probably heard that. I'll link that video up there too, and can cause outside knee pain. So you want to dig. I call it the fifth pocket muscle. So if you find the top of your hip and kind of come down with your hand, just a touch to the front, and trust me, if you poke, you will find it. And I found mine. There it is. You're going to take that little edge and dig right into there. You're going to add a little hip flexion here. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's a hurt so good kind of move. You're going to do this until it feels a little better. You may find that it actually feels better to do some rotation with it. Better meaning worse. So whichever one feels like it's really getting in there. Okay. And then the same thing with the calf. So again, mine was more on the inside. I'm going to found it again. So easy to find. Find that lovely knot. Take that little edge, push in, and then add. I'm going to cross my knee over because I actually do have some hip flexibility. But go ahead and add that dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, or up and down with the ankle. Same idea until it feels a little bit less tender, okay? So now you have some blood flow going in the muscles, and it'll be easier to actually work through the joint a little bit and work on some strength. So I'm going to stand on up and take... It's only 8 pounds. But if you have a weight at home, you can do this. If you have a thicker book, like my well-used anatomy books over here on the floor, or a phone book, which if you're under the age of 30, you probably have no idea what that even is, but something that's going to take and already put your foot in that dorsiflexion, all right? So that, this is a little extreme, but so that it's already up, toe is down. You don't want it against the wall because that's actually too much. But then you can actually add that little knee movement. And what that's doing is really getting more into the joint of that ankle without having to extremely bend the knee, which if your knee hurts probably doesn't feel good. The other thing that and you can hang on, you don't have to balance. The other thing that I tend to do is actually press down into that heel. So I'm kind of digging that heel down and then bringing that knee forward. So about 15 to 20 repetitions a couple times a day. And you might even feel that in the front of the ankle a little bit, okay? So there's a great way to get some mobility in the joint. I'm going to come on over to my bar, which I'm sure not everybody has one of these installed in their house, but you can use a counter or a sturdy, emphasis on sturdy chair. You're going to come up on those toes, and here's the key, slowly lowering back down. So you actually work on lengthening at the same time, and then you're going to add a little bit of toes up, so we get the opposite muscles. So up, and then concentrate. I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. Concentrate on that slow lowering and lifting those toes up. So 10 to 15 here. If that's pretty easy, then you can go ahead and isolate and do one at a time, okay? Usually we're a little different side to side. Notice I can't lift that foot very much. That's because my ankle's shattered and it doesn't want to work very well. But if you are able to do one side at a time, even better, okay? From here, we're going to now stretch these muscles because everything should be feeling good, okay? So if I'm stretching this side, I'm going to bring that foot behind me, keep that heel down, and I'm actually going to cross that front leg over a little so my foot isn't tempted to collapse inwards. And then I'm going to stretch in. You're going to hold 30, 45 seconds until you feel like it actually releases a little bit. I'm not going to hold it that long right now. Now the other key thing is you want to get the muscle underneath called your soleus, which a lot of people miss. So you actually want to bring that foot in a little bit more, and then you're going to bend that back knee, again keeping that heel right on the ground. Okay? So now we've got the ankle and calf loosened up a little bit. We should have that hip and quad loosened up a little bit. And now the key thing to work on are these side butt muscles, because when these don't work, here's an exaggeration, but this is what happens to the knees. Nobody wants to walk around like this. It just doesn't look good, right? It certainly doesn't feel good. So to address that, we're going to go right on our side, making sure that when you move my really heavy books out of the way, making sure that when you look down at your feet, you can see your toes and maybe some of your foot, but not your leg. Otherwise, your legs are too far forward, and you're going to actually activate those hip flexor muscles, which we do not want to do. If it's more comfortable, you can bend the bottom leg. And you want to make sure that you actually point your toes down a little bit so that you don't stress this whole darn area here. So we're going to lift that leg. Goal is 15 to 20 if you can. And again, make sure that leg is coming back a little bit instead of forward so you don't use those hip flexor muscles, okay? If you somehow find that easy, which you might, you never know, to make that a lot more challenging, you can come right up into a side plank. Again, you can keep that bottom knee bent. Now, this is working and this is working. Woo, lots of work today. Yay! All right, there you have it. A way to make that knee feel way better by working on the right joints. So if you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. Thanks, guys.